Welcome to Reseller Recap, where we talk all things reselling across multiple platforms. Join us for real-life discussions on how we crush the elusive work-life balance. Grab a coffee and join us now.
Hi guys, welcome back to Reseller Recap. So Emily had a great idea from the last podcast to talk about what success looks like for each of us. We kind of started talking about it a little bit, but I was like, let's just start a new episode about that because it really does look different for everybody. So Emily, why don't you actually start on this topic since this was your brainchild?
And I love this topic because if you are on social media, you see a very specific picture of what success looks like. And I think it can be limiting because if you don't achieve that, then you feel like you've fallen short. And a lot of it is money. And then what money can buy you. And it's important to realize that who you're following, they might be 20-year-old white boys with no children. Or maybe they do have children we just don't know about. But what they want, what their idea, what your idea of success looked like at 20 looked probably completely different than now I'm 37 and what it looks like for me now. So I think it's important not to try to compare your life with someone else's journey, especially when they're a completely different phase than you. So saying that, my idea of success now looks completely different. I started, and I think it's important to understand why you're doing this, because if you compare your success even in this journey to maybe what your previous job looked like and what success looked there, it's disheartening. And so mine goes back to why I started this. And it was because having a full-time job anywhere would be difficult for me because I have health issues. Also, I don't have a college degree. So in Iowa, what a pay at a minimum pay at a job is $7.25, I think, still here.
Wow.
So all of those things combined, and then having 4 kids and the price of daycare, you're like looking at other options. So success for us is being together and paying our bills, but I think being with our kids and creating memories with them. And success for me personally is health, is when I look at my kids and I'm like, you're healthy and happy and we're spending time together. That's awesome to me, and we're able to be present. Previously, my husband had a job and he was gone sometimes. I think the longest stint of time was like 18 days straight. Wow. We didn't see him. And I remember him coming home crying, and he was just like devastated to miss so much time with the kids. And that was terrible. And so having that experience of him being completely gone and missing important milestones, I do not take any of that for granted, what we're able to do now. And I think as our kids, I have dreams of doing other things and scaling this. And I think that is when our kids are out of the house. They're moved on. And it happens a lot faster than you think it will, because now already we have an almost 16-year-old who is ready just to go to college. And he talks about that all the time and moving on with his life. And so I think it's important to identify the season you're in, because success will look different in each season.
Yeah.
So that's my long-winded take on that.
Yeah, because between the 3 of us, we're all in different phases of that
of life,
which I love that, because it helps us know, well, at least especially me being kind of in the middle of it. I'm like, I get Morgan because I remember the days of naps and diaper blowouts or whatever, and Emily, I see the future of like, oh my gosh, she's gonna leave at some point, like then what, empty nest and driving in a car for the first time and a girlfriend or boyfriend, like this is just insane. It helps being surrounded by other people that are doing kind of, even though everybody has a different goal of what they want from this, being around people that are like-minded and are women in this field and moms in this field. It's really important to have a community and kind of coworkers, because we're all over the place, to just remind us of the why. That's always been really huge for me.
Absolutely. And I think Emily touched on a really important point that I was going to say, like, you're in different seasons of your life. Like, I think it's super important to evaluate what success looks like for you often.
Mhm.
And I actually feel like it's so funny that we're talking about this because I've been feeling like a crisis lately because like so for me, I'll just go. So for me, for like for success at one point was being able to pay bills, doing all the fun, like not just paying bills, but also doing all the fun things. And that was like when I was working my corporate job. And this was just side money to do all those fun things. And it was easy because I got a salary from here and then I'm like doing this. But now that this is like my full-time job, it's like, okay, I had to take a step back and scale this to the point where I could pay the bills. And then, okay, now let's talk about doing fun things. And obviously, I still want to do that. But then it's like, in order to scale to the point of like my kids are obnoxious. Like they're like, "Oh, we want to go to Disney every year." Or like we want to like they want to go like
I want a private plane, and
yeah,
you know,
like, it's never oh, can we go to the water park like
yeah, yeah,
so I'm like, okay, if you guys want to go to Disney like every year or Universal Studios, that's the new one with the new park coming out. Like you guys want to do that every year, I have to like I have to take this up a notch because there's 7 of you,
yeah,
which means there's 9 including me and my husband. So like maybe the 2 littles we don't have to pay for, but you get the point. So I'm just like it's almost like I've had to take a step back and completely restructure and like rethink how I want to like what success looks like for me and how I want to move forward and what I want to do because like as we always talk about, these platforms take up so much time and you can't do everything. And then not only that, but then you have like the social media aspect of stuff. Like I know that to people it all looks great and it's like, "Oh my gosh, they make content, they do this and they do that." But there's a lot of work that goes
mhm,
into making content. Like, yes, we're talking in front of a camera, but there's editing and there's this and there's making thumbnails and all of the things and making it look, to a certain level of being professional. So all of that on top of reselling, on top of this, on top of,
yeah,
being a wife, on top of being a mom, it's a lot. So I've been trying to figure out like how I'm going to restructure my time, how I'm going to like what my new goals look like. Obviously, we're not going to Disney every year, but like what are we going every other year? Are we going every 2 years? Like what does that look like? Um and yeah, just figuring life out. And I'm calling it my reselling identity crisis because it's like I know, but I don't know, but I
yeah,
know. So
yeah,
like I don't know. It's just it's weird because like I said, for me, I've always had the security of having a job.
yeah,
And like, well, I obviously this is a job, but like having a corporate job. So this was
yes,
always just extra. This was not like my primary source of
yeah,
income. And like it's just I'm in October, I'll be a year into this, so full time. So like, I don't know, what is that, 6 months, I think. Like, I feel like okay, I knew what I needed to do to like, all right, I gotta pay bills. Like, I don't have a choice. Like, let's go. But now I'm like, okay, now that I can pay the bills, what's
yeah,
next?
yeah.
So
Aren't you
yeah.
so glad you found us, Morgan?
I actually am because I feel like, do you know, I'd probably be in a corner sobbing, like packing WFS shipments. Like, what am I doing with
What
my
am I
life?
doing with my
Like,
life?
Listen, this is what we call it. Whenever my friends go through a midlife crisis, I say this: you are rebranding.
oh,
And
yeah.
it's important how you frame everything, and it's
True.
okay to evolve, and you're going to rebrand. And to me, when I say that, I'm like, oh, it's not bad or good. It's just I'm changing. I'm going to evolve.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you're rebranding, and that's just part of evolving.
Yeah.
literally. And then I also think a part of reselling is like, I don't know a single reseller that doesn't have this question of like, at some point, what am I doing? Like,
I feel like it's
what?
every other month of like, okay,
Yes.
Yeah.
I got through
Like,
that. Next, like,
what
am I still
what am I
doing
doing with
this?
my life? This is
Yeah.
not it. Like, and then you're like, wait a minute.
Especially with all the
This
hits
is
lately.
great.
I just feel like, it
Yes.
is. Well, and even I had that conversation with you, Emily, when we went to Prosper. I was like, okay, I feel like I want to go to Prosper because we started this podcast. because we're like, we have a lot to say, and there's not women out there talking about this industry. There's so many of us that are kind of like, I feel like we're a quiet voice. We're not out there posting a bunch of, things. Like I thought, okay, so like the other day I posted something on Instagram and one of the followers was like, oh, is this a brag? And I was like, if I was a man and I posted hanging out in the backyard with my family, would you have said to him that that's a brag?
It's a brag. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a brag because I'm taking a Sunday with my family, enjoying the backyard we remodeled, that this business helped pay for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's a brag. Like, I'm not trying to brag. I'm trying to say I'm finally getting to have a minute with my family. Like, I don't know. It's so interesting how that's considered a brag if a woman, says like, I'm really proud that I worked hard for this. But are you saying that to the guy that's driving his Ferrari and has his high-rise apartment in Miami, or you're like, go bro, like,
And I
I
think
want to
it's
be
part
like you
of
someday.
our culture that puts women against each other, and it's competitive, because then you're like, oh, you're bragging. But yes, you're right. When men, it's hustle. It's like, oh, you have a good work ethic. But for women, it's very competitive. It can feel like, because if you're winning, it means I'm not. That's the idea. And kids are that even really young. And my kids will do that because we'll say to one kid, that you had a great day, you did good at track. And the other kid, my daughter loves to say, that's favoritism. And that's the word. And I'm like, no, me saying something good about this kid is not taking anything from you.
Yeah.
And, that's insecurity. That's what that is. That's you're not good enough. And so it's very weird, especially when you live your life publicly on social media, or you choose to share it all. Oh, people, especially family and friends, because they feel so comfortable with you, they will come out with all of the things. Like, I didn't know you were so insecure. Like, go to therapy. Stop.
Yes. So the reason why I didn't have a huge social media following was because like I am not on like social media like that. Like it was funny, a few months ago I accidentally followed Jen on my personal profile. Like I haven't posted on my personal Instagram in I think like 3 or 4 years. Like I just don't, because I feel like, so this is going to be a whole nother tangent, but social media can be so fake. Like you're literally seeing glimpses of people's success, or sometimes people do post their failures, whatever, but it's just a glimpse. Like it's not like, that's not the whole picture. That's not real life. And it's so easy to get like consumed by like, these people are doing all of this and I'm here. And like, that's actually how I feel about LinkedIn. Like when you work with so many people and you're like, wow, like these people like are directors and VPs and we started at the same time. And I'm like, I'm just like a senior manager, or I'm just this. And it's like, why isn't that happening for me? Like you're just completely focused on the wrong thing. And so I took a step back from like social media. Love me some TikTok. Not TikTok, but from Instagram and like even Facebook. I know, totally priorities. And even Facebook, because it's so easy to get caught up in that. And like when I first started reselling and you see people with all these orange bars, they're making millions of dollars. And it's like, why isn't that working for me? Like, how come I'm putting in like hours and days in, days out, and I'm not seeing the results that they're seeing? And then you find out, oh, well, they have 5 VAs. They don't actually sell. Their VAs do everything. They have prep centers. They have all this help. And so like you were saying, Jen, we all have 24 hours, but no, we don't have the same 24 hours. Not even close.
Well, and you mentioned too, like, is it the time or is it money? So like money can buy you time costs money. You know what I mean? It's just like back and forth. And so you have to decide. For me and my business, I rather the money stay in my pocket, and I use the time. And so, I make it work for when it works for me. So there are times that I have to just take a day. Like I said, when Walmart glitched the other day and I lost money because they screwed up stuff with selling WFS things at merchant price, I lost a lot of money, but I was having a great time with my family that day. And I don't regret that. Am I going to remember the couple $100 I lost, or am I going to remember that was the first time my kid went to MLB game? He got to walk the field in his uniform and everybody's cheering for him. And it was a whole thing, you know, and he's gets to be with his friends, and we have all these photos, and that's what's important. That's success for me. Like being able to show up for those kind of things, give him life experiences. My husband and I were talking about this the other day. We both grew up with, you know, very like kind of lower middle class upbringings early on. My husband's actually a refugee and lived in refugee camps for a good chunk of his life. And we said, we remember as kids, like the times when we had to eat everything out of the cabinet, or there wasn't really stuff, or we went to the grocery store and asked for something and our parents said no because they didn't have the money. We were just living so paycheck to paycheck and feeling that burden as kids. And we said, we don't want our son to ever feel that burden. You know, we don't want him to ever feel like he doesn't know where his next meal's coming from. And that was kind of I don't know if we've ever really had that honest conversation before. And so it was kind of interesting that was really a goal for us, that we don't want him to feel that. So, I mean, yes, we would all love to be millionaires. We'd all love to have all these things and stuff, but little things like that, I don't want him to have that same feeling, you know, because even talking to my parents at Easter, like they felt that as kids at one point too with their families, you know. My stepdad didn't want to put the burden of having braces on his parents, you know, and so then he always had all these issues and like stuff like that, you know. You're like, wow, people don't talk about just basic life needs. It's always like these flashy things, and just, I don't know, it's not necessary to be flashy, just paying those basic bills. And yes, can you do those extra things? That's amazing, but not everybody can do that. And that's okay.
Yeah, definitely. And we're I love the group we have here because we have a very mix of life, you know, like Jen, you guys have spouses that work full time at a more traditional job. Well, Jen, you do. Morgan, you do too, but it seems a little bit different because, you know, you can experience your own life, but we're also very different because my husband is like the more full-time stay-at-home dad. And we definitely, I think social media makes it seem like Amazon can pay all the bills. All you have to do is quit your job and go hard on Amazon. And that is not the case either. And I'm always like, don't quit your job, because even if you do, our main thing is, how are we going to fund Walmart? How are we going to fund Amazon? Because Brandon and I both don't work normal jobs. We are always doing everything. We're always doing the most. You know, I always have lots of things happening, and I enjoy this. So to me, the sacrifice is worth it. But it's definitely, you know, being an entrepreneur full time for both of us means that we are full time working all the time.
All the time.
There really is never moments off ever. We never take breaks, you know. And I mean, we're planning a vacation next month, and my biggest question is there Wi-Fi? Because I will have to work on vacation. It's what I love to do, and I'll still be able to set my schedule, but there's not a glamorous life. You know, I think no matter what, if you have two people working a normal 9-to-5 job, you're missing a lot, you know. And then on the other hand, on this, there's not, and nobody's winning, you know. A very small percentage, most likely they have a trust fund and generational wealth, but they're winning. Most people, you know, success, no one is just like winning, you know, and just straight successful and how we feel like it appears on social media.
And my son asked the other day, he said, how come you can just take days off and come in? Because I'm room mom, I'm on PTO, I'm on UPC. Like, I do all these things because that was really important for me, that my mom would come to those things and show up, because she worked from home and she'd work nights and weekends and things to be able to be there for stuff during the day. And so I said, I wanted to be that same parent, you know, to be able to show up. That was important for me because we only have one. And so I was like, I feel like I want to make sure I give him as much time as I can. And he said, you know, you can just take a day, but how come daddy always has to ask for a day? And I said, well, that's the difference with when you work for yourself, you get to set your own schedule. And then that's why on Sundays, mommy's working and you're hanging out with daddy, but Monday through Friday, he has to work. He can't just leave whenever. He has to ask for days off. He only gets so many days off. You know, that's the perks and the negatives to kind of both, you know, like one's not better than the other. It's what works for you. And I said, for our family, having one doing each works. I don't think if both of us had 9 to 5 regular jobs, our family could be our family. Like it would not
Yeah.
flow.
Yeah. And I also think it's funny because like looking back on it, I was like, I will never work a sales job ever again because it's straight commission based. Like you don't know what you're going to be bringing home. And
Yeah,
I laugh at myself because I'm like, this is a sales job
it is.
basically
Yeah.
because in your check in the beginning of the month could be 8, 9 grand, and then your check at the end of the month could be like 4, and you never know, like you try to make sure that you make that bottom line that you need, but you never really know if you're going to make it or not.
Right.
Like so many things could happen, honestly, God forbid, but you get shut down, like, and
Yeah.
now you have no money. It's like, oh my God, like I still have bills. So yeah, it's definitely, I told my husband, like I feel the weight of I can't even talk of entrepreneurship because it's like that, like we still have bills like at the
Yeah.
end of the day. So like if I get shut down and I can't, like we had somebody in the community, thank God she was selling in multiple platforms, but she lost her account, her Amazon account, for what, like 5, 6 months,
Yeah.
and she had like thousands of dollars on hold. Like I just looking back at that, like how can you have to know how to move forward, but I feel that weight of like,
Mhm.
if this happens, I have to know how to pivot
Yeah.
because like obviously you have a safety net, you have savings and stuff, but like not everybody can afford to save, not
I don't
everybody
know
can
if everybody
afford
has
certain.
savings. That's a huge
Exactly.
thing. Like they said, most people
Exactly.
only have like one extra paycheck of savings. Like it's
Yeah.
really,
And I just saw this article that was saying that I think it was like 95%, I want to say is the statistic of Americans are surviving off of credit cards right now. Not even like their checks, just straight credit cards.
Right.
So it's like yeah, obviously if you have like good credit or the ability to have credit, you have those options to pay bills. But if you're already surviving off credit and something happens, do you have enough credit to pay bills? Maybe, maybe
Mhm.
not. So it's just like there's a false security, I think, in having like a full 9 to 5 because you think, oh, that paycheck's just coming, it's just coming. When realistically, like what happened to me, you could get laid off
Yeah, they
and
could fire
have
you at any
no
time.
notice.
Yeah.
Like, so there really isn't security in that. And honestly, there really isn't security in what we do either. But that's just life. So it's like, which side of the coin are you willing to
Right.
deal with?
Adulthood.
So
That's why I keep saying, listen, I'm
yeah.
like, quit trying to rush being an adult. There's so
Oh
many
my
things you don't have
gosh.
to worry about.
I tell my kids
Just
all the time. I get it
enjoy.
now. You get it now.
I
Like
know.
I'm like, I know that you guys want to be like, you want to go out with your friends and you want to do this stuff, but like, oh my gosh, please slow down. If I
Who's
could
paying
go
your
back
gas? Who's paying your car? Who's paying your insurance? Oh, wait,
if
you.
I
You
could
are.
go back in time, man, and just be a kid again. Like when you see that like that nostalgic like Disney Channel show or like, and you're just like, dang,
Yes.
like life was so easy. Like we thought we knew what a problem was.
I know.
Like,
Well, that's why I just
yeah.
saw like a old Instagram post, and it was like when you told your parents you were at a sleepover and you were actually laying in a field wasted, and I was like,
That rings true for Jen.
whoopsie whoopsies.
Yeah, like
But I think
just
we
different.
we are all trying to navigate the risk, and sometimes it's harder than others. Like if it's a
Yeah.
hard month, the risk of the business feels super overwhelming.
Yeah.
And for us, like we are always like going back and saying like, is something better? Should we be doing something else? And for us, it is worth it. And I think that's where it's important to be honest with yourself, because this doesn't have to be a long-term thing. Like maybe it was worth it 2 years ago and it's not anymore. Now it's more of a
Yeah.
headache to you and it's
Yeah.
not worth it. There's nothing wrong with going and getting another job, going
Yeah.
and doing something else. Like, and I think that's something my parents and grandparents, like when you started with a career, you died with that career.
Yeah, that was it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
And
1,000%.
Yes.
Yes.
and that's where my rebranding idea came from, because you can change 500 times in your life. You can evolve. You don't have to live even a decade with the same career. You can keep growing and go back to school.
I'm
And
proof of that. How many careers have I had?
Dude.
it's important to be flexible, in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because it was what each thing worked for which phase of life. So it's true.
Yeah.
You should constantly be rebranding, constantly assessing what works for what my situation is now, what I needed while I was single, what I needed when I was first married, what I needed once we had our son, what we'll need when he is a teenager or when he goes to college. Like we're going to have to just keep kind of changing over time. And if it doesn't work anymore, then that's fine. That's not failure. It helped you it gave you what you needed at the time. And when it doesn't serve you anymore, be done with it.
Yep. Right. You know how they have like the jack of all trades? I'm gonna call you the Jen of all trades.
I'm changing that on my Instagram title now. Jen of all trades.
You got like, if you guys don't know, Jen has had like every job you could imagine. I swear.
I love that.
Pretty much. But you know what I mean? It ended up, I feel like, serving me well for this, it ended up. Honestly, my husband's like, finally, all the things you have done, you can actually use all of them for this one career. Like, I think you finally found your thing. So that's funny.
Wow. Hilarious.
Anybody have anything to add?
No, I'm glad we covered this. I think it was such a good, insightful conversation.
Yeah.
Good thinking, Em. Look at you.
See, not just a personality hire.
I know. She's always got good ideas. Don't let her fool you. She always has good ideas. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us today, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.